Hello and welcome to this Friday's scheduling call that Fabian usually introduces us to.
Thank you.
I was waiting for you to do it and you weren't gonna start, so
No,
that's fine.
you can tell I'm in Friday mode, so.
All right, I'm gonna share my screen. Let's get started. Okay, there we go. All right, let's start at the closed column. Okay. Yes, we performed a planned failover and we used a single Geo node and it worked and it's all good and the recording's there. Put it in a box marked done.
That's pretty cool. Thank you, Valerie, for doing it.
Now this was also a deliverable item, so what I want to do right away is just do this onto the discussion thing so I don't lose it. I'm just going to make this a habit so that it just happens every time.
Yes.
Okay, that's done. Document how to access the tracking database. So there were two parts to this and we've decided that the second part is less important. So we closed that out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The self-service framework. So this is a discussion item that we had, and I closed this one out earlier in the week because we had consensus. We've gone with separate registry tables, and there's been no concern after I've closed the issue. So I'm considering this done as well. It was good to have that discussion and get it taken care of because it means that self-service framework, we don't have to then have the discussion again when it comes up. But the label is not removing itself. There we go. Okay, and last one. Yes, this was unfortunate that this didn't get discovered until now, or until Wednesday.
Yes.
I just wanted to check because when I looked at the merge request, it didn't have the pick into, so I just want to check that
I think it already got picked by the bot into 12.71, I think. If you go down.
Oh, it removed it. I see.
Yeah, so it actually
I understand.
did its job.
Okay.
I said, I think to Marin that I actually think this feels like a pretty good level of automation, actually, you know, with the label and the bot actually visiting, kind of fun.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, so I think my understanding is that now in the next minor release or patch release of 12.70, you should be able to see the front end for design repositories. The replication and everything actually works. I think for the future, I think maybe we should devise some form of issue template because we need at least one issue in a new data type or a feature actually to verify that you know, if all feature flags are removed, make it generally available. And I think what happened here is that while removing all the feature flags, I think the front end was overlooked, which happens. So maybe there is an action to say, okay, if we actually have finished, you know, our development, right? These are the 5 things that we actually need to make sure, you know, that we are shipping it into a release, right?
Are you talking specifically for adding new data types or for other issues?
It's probably for everything, right? I mean, I'm just wondering, it's like, what are the things that we need to actually verify, right? And how do we ensure that these things are verified beforehand?
Well, I know what other teams do is they move things into the workflow verification column and then they go onto the production instance and they check that it's there. And once it's there, then they get rid of it out of that verification column. But the problem is we're not on production. So we have to think of a different environment where we're doing the verification. And
well, we also often have like several tickets that actually, or several issues that are all important for a single feature. So, you know, we can't really move, you know, we can't really move the epic into verification, right? Which is,
yeah. I'm going to put it in the discussion
yes.
page, and we need to think about like how to verify issues. Okay, because I think if we have that discussion, it's probably going to take us the whole hour. So
yeah, it's probably
move it in there, and we can have a think about it, and we can talk about it after the call.
Sounds good. Yeah, a slightly unrelated thing, that's the last thing I'm going to say, is that I've done acceptance demos in the past in Teams, sort of before a release, where everybody had to actually present to the team like what was implemented and how it looks, you know, and that was always fun, but that's just a side note.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's give it some thought and chat about it separately. Okay, the in review column, making the registry the single source of truth. So I know that Mike has been working on the proof of concept more than anything else that's in here. But I see that the work in progress label has been taken off of this POC now. So I'm just checking on what the latest was here. A database review pending. And he did some commits yesterday. A lot of commits yesterday. It's probably catching up. Yeah, so Tone's done part of the database review and it's back with Mike.
Okay.
But yeah, because they're working on the other proof of, not the other proof of concept, they're working on that implementation. So I'm expecting that that's going to sit around for a while. Okay, improve the logging of sync services. This was with Ash, but the merge request is now in and merged. So I'm just going to check when this was merged, 2 days ago. Okay, so I'm just checking if we can close this out then, because that means the review is done.
I suppose if the merge request is merged,
then it can be closed.
I think it can be closed. I mean, we can just make a comment says like, hey, Ash, you know, this was reviewed and merged. We're closing it. Let us know if, you know, this is wrong.
I'm loving the automated those things. I know they've been here for ages, but I love that.
So you're not actually closing it?
Oh, did I not close it? Sorry. There you go, closed. Okay, add. Oh, right. This is the documentation that we went back and forth on a bit because we got a bit confused as to what the real story was.
Yeah. So I picked this up because I wanted to feel useful, but it was a lot of work so far. I think I've incorporated all of the feedback, and I think I'll actually bounce this back to Evan because now the linter works. So I think this should get reviewed one more time, and then hopefully we can merge it.
Okay.
I think in general, this is something where maybe we need to pay a little bit more close attention if we discover bugs that are actually, so let's say disruptive that they require a workaround. I think we should pick up the documentation to describe the workaround relatively soon. Otherwise, we may get caught out, because customers won't know. I've already actually pinged the account management team and the support team just to sort of make them aware that there was a bug, there is a workaround, and we are cooking up the documentation so that if somebody has this problem, they actually know that this exists. Just trying to be sort of very proactive in communicating.
Yeah. Makes sense. Okay, unable to sign on from a secondary node no faster was this raised, was the MR raised as well.
Yep.
So that's getting looked at and taken care of, and it's in review. Okay, let me refresh that. Okay, the blocked column. This is blocked on the fork network thing, which is being bumped to 12.8.
Yep.
This is blocked on what? Oh, there you go. The view alert. Okay, makes sense. Okay, in dev. 11 items in dev. That is quite a lot. Let's see. Handle moving repository storage. So I put a comment on here. I'm not sure if you've read it yet. That I recommend putting this issue on hold because we aren't going to get to production in the next couple of months. And given how much work still remains on this issue,
yes,
it just seems less important than the self-service framework. So if that's the case, are you happy with me moving that back?
I violently disagree. No, it's like I think that's completely right. I'm sorry, I forgot to reply.
That's okay.
Cool.
Okay, move back. The demo via the Helm chart. This hasn't gone anywhere either.
Maybe just shoot a message to Tone asking what the status of this is. Because I think it's okay not to be working on it, but then I think we should either move it back or decide when we'll actually do it. Otherwise, it's just hanging out here.
So we've done. I'm trying to think about what the importance of this one actually is. I mean, if it's been hanging around for so long and it hasn't been done, is it actually? Like, is it actually important? I
thought, so I recall this is, I think, before I went on paternity, maybe just after. I can't remember. It's like I thought the idea here was if you can go up to the like issue description to sort of try out, you know, a geo install on Helm, because that's one of the things that were, like, I think in development for months, right? And a bit of discovery. I don't know if this was even successful or not, but I think this was just something that I think we were interested in doing to, you know, help the distribution team and sort of validate that all of those things actually make sense. I personally think there is no necessary urgency to it, right? Given what we are doing right now. It still should happen, but I also don't know how much work this still is, right? If this is like 2 weeks work of preparing it, you know, then I'm not sure this is worth it right now, given the other things that we are doing, right? If this is a sort of a quick half day finishing this up, right? I think that's fine. I think what I'm trying to say in a very circumspect way is like, it depends on the opportunity cost.
No, I understand that. That's why I'm changing what I've written there to be how much effort do you think is involved in completing this? Because then once we get the reply, we can decide what to do about it. Because if he replies and says, oh, it's a half day, I just have to find the day, that's fine. But if he replies and says, well, it takes 8 hours to get things set up and then I still have to do the test.
Yeah, so which by the way is also like not necessarily a bad finding, right? If actually making this work requires Tone like 3 days of work, right? Then maybe that's also a good sort of bit of, hey, this is currently still pretty hard.
Yeah.
You know, either way.
Either way. Okay. Decide on the replicable DSL. I'm pretty sure a lot of this is getting talked about in the implementation stuff. But this was about merging the MR itself. Okay, and that's only a day ago that we had this discussion, so that's fine. I'm pretty sure the MR will get the work in progress piece taken off and merged in.
Cool.
Cool. The failover using Geo HA. I stopped the instances that Ash had running because I couldn't find anyone else that's going to be able to do this in the next 2 weeks. So I think when he gets back, he can start the instances up and continue. I'm not going to move this anywhere. I'm just going to leave it there.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay, the spike. They had their third pairing session yesterday, which is awesome. I need to go and see what they've achieved. I just want to see if there's any comments listed on here about where they're at.
Probably on the MR, I suppose.
Okay.
Is there? I've not actually looked at this this other bit before.
This was about the API that the front end uses to access the data to display.
So what is the? So I just haven't read the next up.
Okay, so he's looking at the API endpoint. That's why he's working on this.
Okay, but that means that we may need to schedule this as in ready for development now. Is that correct? At least for the.
It's either ready for development or it's actually in development. So maybe what I should say to Mike is when you pick this up, move this ticket into in development.
Yeah, but then we should remove your workflow scheduling. Should we move the label here from workflow scheduling to workflow ready for development?
Yeah.
Because then it will appear on the board and also add GeoActive. Yeah.
Okay, and should I also just take the POC bit off because they're actually doing the implementation. They're not doing a POC anymore.
Cool. And I think the only other thing then at the Spike self-service framework is that given that they are going to work on the API, just make sure that Zach is involved in this because he will be the consumer of the API.
The only thing I can think of is this was this is actually an implementation of this.
What do you mean?
I'll leave it. No, I'll leave it. This is a specific implementation of this idea. This is saying we need to create a generalized API for all objects. And this is saying we're going to do a specific one for package files.
Well, but maybe this is the discussion they should actually have then, right? It's like, is this the right way or not? Or
maybe I'll say, move this into workflow in dev or create the issue for this specific implementation for.
I actually I see what's happening here. I think what they're doing is they're still following sort of the naming convention of the generalized API, right? Yeah. The strategy here is blob and the replicable is package file. Yeah. And I think then there should be another blob, which is job artifact or whatever, right? I think this is maybe this is what they're trying to do. But I think this is maybe also a question for Zach if this is what he's looking for, right? Or
yeah. Okay.
I'm sure they'll figure it out.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll get it. They'll get there.
Can you do me a favor and just scroll up a little bit here? Okay, so there is actually discussion that I still need to read. Fine.
Yeah.
But I'm quite happy with the progress.
And I think I think they've been able to make a lot of progress because they've had so many pairing sessions.
Yes.
I watched about an hour of the first one, and even there I could see how many discussions they were having and the decisions they were taking in that hour that would have been just days and back and forth. So I think this has been a very good way of working to get through this initial.
Well, and I spoke with Gabriel, not Broder,
yeah.
yesterday, and he said that first, actually having a synchronous line of communication is helpful because you can bounce back ideas, and the likelihood of making bad decisions is lower because you have somebody else to actually talk about. But I think I like the strategy here as well. Sort of, it is very much sort of asking for forgiveness than for permission, right? You just move forward and you make decisions, and maybe some of those decisions need to be revisited, but we're actually moving, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what we need right now.
Yeah. No, so I'm happy with how this is progressing. Absolutely. Okay. That I have not done anything this week on how to do this. Yeah, that is what it is. I haven't done anything. The secondary node for staging, they still aren't at the point of doing the backfill because they ran into two issues this week where the one was something was wrong with the Redis, that Devin is now needing to take a look at. And there was a second thing about the foreign data wrapper, which got resolved yesterday. So yeah, we're still not yet at the point of doing the backfill, but things are progressing.
Yes, but I think what this highlights on some level is like how bloody difficult it is to actually set this up.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, there are some things that aren't completely correct about how we're doing this on staging, like having everything inside the same VPC. But even if a customer wanted that, it shouldn't, like, this is hard. This is challenging to get this done.
Yes. So yeah. I think this is something that we really need to start working on, because it's just too hard.
I think another thing that we need to do, and I need to do this before we forget, is we actually need to retrospect on how this process, like how this went when it's finished.
Yeah. I think for sure. I mean, when did I open this thing here? 4 months ago.
Yeah.
That's half the time I've been at GitLab. So
I'm just quickly going to say, should we be doing this in the main project or should we be doing this in our Geo? I'll do it later. We don't have to do the synchronicity on the call. But yes, we need to retrospect on. Right, that's done. Right, this. Still setting up the system to upgrade and didn't want to schedule before then. Okay, I'll follow up about that. Because now we're another release behind. This is still 4.
Yes. Yeah. No,
okay.
I
Pausing database replication. So this, I think, Fabian, is actually a question for you because, oh no, there was some discussion that I missed yesterday.
Yeah. So I think the POC can be closed. So I had a discussion actually on the epic, and I also commented on the not there. I think not in the actually in here. I raised a few sort of follow-up questions. So because I think if you go down a little bit, down, up. Yep. Okay. So I think we can close this, the POC, because my understanding is what we have established is we know now that it is possible to pause and resume database replication on a secondary node, right? Via omnibus control commands rather than a rake task. And I think there's also some more clarity on us probably not having to flush the write ahead logs. So in my mind, that was the purpose of the POC, was to establish, is this actually something that is possible to do, right? Which beforehand, we were not quite sure. The next steps here are, I think, Sinjung and I are going to meet in the afternoon, is to look at if we wanted users, systems administrators, to actually be able to pause the database replication. Like, how should that user flow look like, right? And I have made this wonderful lo-fi diagram already, which I will post, because I think there are a few questions that I have. Is like, we already like have a pause replication button, but the pause replication button is on the primary, and the pause replication button actually pauses, you know, all the replication for like job artifacts, you know, like these kinds of things, but not database. So it's a little bit of a lie. It's also on the primary where we, as far as I understand, aren't able to actually pause the secondary database replication. So, you know, I think we have a few sort of decisions to make on like, you know, where should this pause button actually be, right? On the primary, on the secondary, like, can we like pause the database replication actually via the UI at this moment or not, right? Because that may be a privileged activity, you know, and we don't have the capacity to actually like do this easily at the moment, you know. So maybe we can't actually do a UI like functionality for this at this moment. And then is the first sort of iteration on making this easier to implement a task that can be run on the secondary, you know, to pause database replication and or any other replication that you know, we have. Those are, I think, the sort of the next like discussion steps. Now that we know that this is generally feasible, that's work for me in Sinjung to define sort of what the next steps are.
Okay, well then I'll leave this one with you to put that comment on, to just close everything out.
Yes.
And then it'll be closed and moved over. So that's been great that that's been successful. And
I think you can actually close it right now.
Well, I think the comment that you've just talked about, I think is useful to just have, like, that you consider this a success, and from your perspective, you're happy to close, because I think the proof of concepts are there to verify an idea that you have. And I think it's just nice to have a closeout statement that says, yes, this is good.
Okay, that's fine. I can happily do that.
Okay. Okay.
Which is also another direction item and deliverable closed.
Very happy with that. Okay, rewrite the form in Vue. Okay, so there is one work in progress item, but that's on the backlog, and then there is one doing the core fields. Okay. Okay, great. And the review is ongoing, which is good. And this is the one that's blocking that one about the license admin panel. And let's just look at that one first. Yeah, this is good. It's nice that these are getting, like, the reviews get pushed along well. It's like some of the other issues we have, the views just get, sorry, the reviews just get halted sometimes. They just get stuck. And these ones, they just seem to keep going, which is great.
Yeah. No, and I think it's also really great work from Zach that he's pushing the front end into a more, like into a position where he feels comfortable and that adheres to our sort of modern standards in GitLab with Vue. Yeah. I never know how to pronounce it. And like I talked with him yesterday, and he says like one of the main reasons why he is actually doing this at the moment is because he feels that when that is done, you know, the design changes that come via Sinjung will be much easier for him to implement, and we won't get so hung up on, you know, oh yeah, actually this doesn't really work because something is
old.
old.
Yeah.
And I think that's quite nice. Okay.
Great. I've stopped sharing. It's over to you.
Yeah. No. I'm sharing. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, so I have two ideas. So first of all, there's a ton of stuff in development. That's so I don't think we should overload this here a lot more, because there is just a lot going on. End-to-end tests improving here. I think there's no change. I think this should be done by Jenny. I think this is still important. The POC maintenance mode we talked about last time. I think this is, especially now that the pause and replication bit is, where is it? Here, will close. I think we should keep this in because that will be important to move forward with this feature, especially because we have high fidelity prototypes now from Sinjin. This one here, I believe, it is not resolved. Tone is still on it, right? And I think this should just also happen, right? I think that's fine. This bit here we discussed already. That will be sort of a natural follow-on from this, as far as I understand. So this may already be actually worked on. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, we've asked him to update accordingly. What is this last one? That's new.
Oh, yeah, I made it.
Oh, okay.
So there is some feedback. There was some feedback during the release process that we have this table right here on what data types are supported, but it isn't clear when the support was actually added. So people get confused, I am on GitLab 12.4.
Yeah, why can't I see deposit design repos? Yeah.
So this is a documentation change to add a column that essentially has something like added at, or released in.
Supported from, yeah.
Supported.
Okay, yeah, fair point.
Something like this, so that people can say oh, this is actually, I'm not on this version, I should probably update. So, yep.
Okay.
I think that's a quick one, if somebody has time, maybe I'll even do it. By the way, this is a question. If I put MRs in for documentation, is this counted against geo velocity?
I can check quickly. If I know that there's two different ways of measuring it at the moment, so you definitely have to put group geo on it, and then it will show up in the one dashboard. And the second dashboard is the Periscope dashboard. And I've got to sign in with a key that's not at my desk. So I will double check, but definitely put the group geo label on it, and then it'll show up on the one, and I'll check the other one after the call.
Cool. Yeah. Also, the other question is, if there is a measure of average MRs per engineer in the group, and I get included in this, and I have only one or two, I will
Yeah.
Just blame the product manager. Okay, so this is this. I'm happy with this. These are. I'll actually turn I'll remove the active label here because I think they're okay in scheduling.
Wasn't I going to add something about this unreplicated data plan transfer thing? I'm sure I said I would do something.
Maybe.
It'll come to me. I'll add it to my discussion thing to check.
Cool. I'll just put them away now because I think they're just cluttering the board. Okay. So I have one more suggestion, what we can do,
Mm-hmm.
which is not unimportant, I think. No, wrong. Yes, this is what I'm looking for. So we are working on the package file replication spike. But as far as I understand, like the work on the like verification can start in parallel to this to a certain extent. That's what I understood.
I understood that as well, yeah.
So I think it would maybe make sense to like schedule 1 or 2 of these issues here, that if somebody feels like during the week they are ready to engage on something new, right, they can start doing the verification, which will also, I think, facilitate some like necessary communication with what is happening here in the spike, which I don't think is necessarily bad, right? Because it will force questions like, okay, I'm looking at the verification, like where are you guys actually at, right? How would this work, right?
Maybe what we should do is on the epic itself, we should ask Mike and Tone and Douglas and Gabriel with that we want to schedule the, like as far as we understand, the verification can be picked up at, in parallel. Is there a particular issue that we can schedule, or like how do we start that work in parallel?
Yeah, I think there is actually a comment that I saw. Give me a second. No, wrong. Here, 6 days ago, Mike said, note that this epic here.
Which epic is this?
817, which is the verification one, is also ready to start.
So
I think these are in order, actually.
Oh, they are. That was going to be my next question. If they're in order, then yes, just let's schedule the first one.
I'll schedule the first one here, and I'll make a note and saying like, hey, Mike, it is my understanding, that this is startable in parallel to the spike. I've scheduled this. If it doesn't make sense, let me know. App tone. And then I'll move this to Geo active, ready for chat. Ready for development. This stuff like drives me nuts sometimes. Don't want this. And I think that this should actually work. Very good. Okay.
Okay.
So this should now result in the build board. Cool. Okay, and I'll move them in sort of rough priority order as well. Cool. Okay, so we have like 14 weight in here and 22 in here. So
yeah, so that's plenty. That's plenty. Okay.
Cool.
Can I ask to just, could you please filter this by deliverable? So there's 1 in review and there's 3 in development. One of those is going to be completed actually. So there's, okay, that's looking nice. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Cool.
I think I had 2 other quick things that I made a note for myself to discuss if we have time, just because I am exceedingly organized. Okay, so the Puma bit is actually fine. We don't need to do anything right now. Valeri said, I think this issue has moderate importance and has to be scheduled within the next 1 to 3 releases. Okay, what I will do here is I will move this into workflow scheduling and Geo. Oh, that's actually okay.
Yeah.
And I'll just make a note. Thanks. Moved to scheduling where we can pick this up. And then I'm also going to say to Matthias, can we remove the 12.8 milestone? Sounds good?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, perfect. And then the second thing, restoring. Yeah. Okay, so this is like about failing wikis. I'll just ping James again.
Yeah, it's making me think also about how we need to work within the backup restore category, because this is not the whole backup fails. This is one section of it fails, and I think we should, I think we should behave like this in normal geo circles anyway. But I think when we get errors about a particular data type, that we must involve the team.
Yes. Well, I think ultimately, I haven't really spent a lot of time thinking about the backup and restore yet, but I think ultimately, I feel personally the same principles apply to like how we think about geo replicables. There's always going to be something more that will need to be backed up. So ultimately, I feel it is much more scalable to involve the groups responsible for these specific types to share, some of the responsibility when it comes to backing up that data, right?
Yeah, but what I was trying to say is I think we should take that practice on from now. We shouldn't start doing things ourselves immediately, because we've just taken ownership of the category. We should start as we mean to proceed, which is we found a bug with this, we must get them involved. And I see that you've already pinged James and Alex has mentioned Italy, and I think that there'll be more coordination to get things done, but I think that that's the right way to work.
Yes, and I think actually another good example is the LFS fork network issue, which I think is being taken on by, can't quite remember the plan, the group name, but
that other group, yes, that one. Yeah,
and it is a lot of work, right? The MR, I think, is keeping one person very busy, and thank you so much for doing it. But I think it's good that they are actually contributing, because I think if we had done this, I think it would have negatively impacted the geo.
Oh, for sure. Well, we would have one engineer out completely. and we already have enough engineers locked up on various things than to have another person looking at the specific LFS4 network thing.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think also in future when bugs come up from backup restore, we must treat them exactly the same as this. Pinging for help, getting
I think that will help.
Yeah.
And I think it also like will encourage us again to maybe build systems that allow others to, you know, like
take care of themselves.
Take care of themselves.
Yeah.
That's my mission for 2020, you know, help others help themselves.
Sounds good. I approve this mission. I support this mission.
Thank you.
How can I help you get this done?
That's very meta, right?
I thought you'd appreciate that.
I think that's it. I think we have plenty to do.
Yeah.
And I've also, this may be the last thing, I've drafted a little statement for the Geo self-service workshop talk thing.
Yes, I saw, I had a look at that. It matches my understanding of it. I think that it's fine.
Yeah, I agree. If I don't hear anything by sort of noon-ish my time today, I will just make sure that it is officially submitted and whatnot, because the deadline is today, but then we're in.
Okay.
And
yeah, and I'd happily do be the DRI for that, but I'm not sure which days the presentations are on. And if they're on the days that I'm there, I'm happy to do them, but I'm concerned that they might not be. So let me know.
Yeah, I just put myself on because I wrote it, and I'm happy to do this right now. I'm just probably not the best person to actually facilitate the workshop if it is about the technical implementation.
Yeah, no, I'm sure we can figure that out, even if we are switching it, switching the speaker in the next week or two. As long as we've got the slot, that's all we need.
That's what we need. Exactly. Yeah. Cool.
Alrighty.
Well, thanks for the scheduling call. Yeah, I'm looking forward to next week. It's been good.
Yeah. Cool.
Awesome. Bye.
Bye.